This presentation is a cooperative effort between the Utah Department of Transportation and the Utah Technology Transfer Center at Utah State University. Each year, approximately 900 school-age pedestrian accidents occur in the state of Utah. Despite past efforts, these numbers remain high year after year. Presently, many people, agencies, and levels of government have united to reduce the number of school-age pedestrian accidents. The problem has been identified. Why these accidents occur and how they can be prevented are questions which need to be answered. Data collected by UDOT concludes that training behavior modifications will be most effective in preventing accidents. This pie chart shows a 5-year average of the ages involved in school-age pedestrian accidents. Children 5 to 10 years of age are involved in 46% of the accidents. This suggests that there is a need for very young children to be trained by parents and crossing guards. Figure 2 shows that 70% of the accidents involve males, suggesting that special efforts should be taken to instruct boys and help them understand the dangers are very real. Figure 3 shows that in only 20% of the accidents, drivers were cited and supports the fact that children needed to be educated. However, the other 80% of the drivers could have prevented an accident with training behavior modifications. The fourth and most convincing chart shows that only 1% of the accidents occurred where crossing guards were present and had been trained properly. The following chart simply shows the accidents occurred more frequently in the early afternoon and evening.
The following tragedy occurs much too frequently on our nation's roads. The actual footage comes from a Utah school zone shortly after the accident occurred.
It's what parents in West Valley have been worried about for a long time, that this heavily traveled intersection in front of Truman Elementary would one day turn fatal. Today it did. 9-year-old Shannon Kinder was struck and killed by a man who allegedly ran a red light.
I hope they put school crossing up there or something up there that, will slow people down.
Police say charges are pending against the driver of the truck. In the meantime, parents say they'll continue to fight to make the intersection safer so that what happened to 9-year-old Shannon Kinder never happens again. Sarah Harlow, KUTV News.
Each year, your local government agency sponsors a training program for new and returning school crossing guards. The purpose of this program is to demonstrate the responsibilities and duties of the crossing guards. Any updates in techniques, equipment, and legal requirements are also covered. You as a school crossing guard are important because you assist many thousands of young children in crossing our busy streets on their daily journey to and from school. You also instruct children while they are using the crosswalk in safe crossing techniques that will help them at unattended crossings. You represent a symbol of safety to both children and drivers and help them both to share the road safely. This program will cover the following topics: crossing guard equipment, duties at reduced speed school zones, duties at school crossings, duties at traffic signals, instructing children in safe crossing techniques. The equipment for a school crossing guard includes a bright orange reflectorized vest and stop paddle. The vest and stop paddle are your primary tools to gain the driver's attention and cooperation and should always be in good condition, not faded, scratched, or altered. Other tools include the crosswalk, signs, and other traffic control devices along the street. The local government agency is responsible for providing the vests, stop paddles, signs, crosswalks, and other traffic control devices. Operation of the reduced speed school zones is also a local government agency responsibility. The decision to provide a crossing guard at a particular location is made by the local agency, usually in response to the recommendation from the School District Traffic Safety Committee. Since consistency in traffic control devices is important for drivers' expectations and performance, you as a crossing guard may not alter existing devices or use non-standard devices. Altered or non-standard devices are illegal and may actually increase a driver's reaction time with possible disastrous results. There are several typical school crossing situations, each of which requires the same preparation by you, the crossing guard. Before going on the job, you should be familiar with the actions to take should an accident happen and know who to notify if the traffic control device is damaged or missing. You should have a list of important phone numbers with you and know the location of the nearest phone. You should be familiar with the vehicle traffic code and the fact that you are authorized only to direct and control pedestrians, not to direct traffic. You should inspect all equipment and traffic control devices relating to the crossing and report deficiencies. You should check the crossing area for hazards and to make sure there is enough space to hold children waiting to cross. The most common location for a school crossing guard is at a reduced speed school zone. This speed zone is the only area where Utah state law provides for a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit where school children cross the road. The speed zone is only in force when the flashing school speed limit signs are in operation. The speed zone starts at the flashing school speed limit sign on the near side of the crosswalk. The zone ends at the end school zone sign on the far side of the crosswalk. Passing is discouraged within the reduced speed school zone. You should inspect the crossing area to make sure all signs, pavement markings, and other traffic control devices are in place and that there are no hazards near the crosswalk. 4 signs: the school advance sign, the flashing school speed limit sign, the school crossing sign, and the end school zone sign are required for a reduced speed school zone. The ladder type crosswalk with cones is standard. No parking signs may also be needed in the vicinity of the signs and crosswalk to ensure visibility. It is important to turn on the flashing school speed limit signs and place the cones at the correct locations about 45 minutes before school starts. Both signs should be turned on before placing the cones. The cones are placed on the yellow center line of the street on each side of the crosswalk so that they can be seen by motorists approaching from both directions. Care should be taken when placing the cones to not interfere with left-turning traffic. Cones should be stored off-site by the crossing guard. If you have specific questions on sign placement or need a sign installed or repaired at your crosswalk, please contact your supervisor. The time to turn off the flashing school speed limit signs is no later than 30 minutes after the final class has been dismissed. You start by first removing the cones. Turn off one of the flashing school speed limit signs, and then the other, in the reverse order of how you first turned on the signs earlier in the day. Be sure to lock the switches. The flashing school speed limit signs may only be operated when children are going to or from school. This means that they may have to be turned on and turned off, and the cones placed and removed several times during the day, in the morning, at lunchtime, and in the afternoon. The signs and cones must be handled in the exact same manner each time. The signs may not be left flashing, nor the cones left in place when you leave the area or go off duty. This helps minimize delay to motorists and develops better driver compliance. Now that we have discussed the operation of a reduced speed school zone, we will address your duties and responsibilities when the children arrive. The first and most important step is to get to know your kids and to establish yourself as an authority figure. To be successful, you must be able to command respect and gain their trust. Lay down the safety rules at the beginning of the school year and restate them at intervals. Instruct the children in safe crossing techniques on a daily basis as they use the crosswalk. Here is an example of a reduced speed school zone. It does not matter whether it is adjacent to school grounds or at a location remote from the school. The sequence of the signs and location of other traffic control devices is the same in either case. The crossing guard is telling the children the safety rules for the crossing. Do not cross the street unless the guard is there to assist them. Where to stand while waiting to cross. Stop before entering the street. Select a safe gap in traffic. No pushing or shoving. Wait until he reaches the center of the street and signals them to cross. Look both ways before they cross and while they cross. If at an intersection, watch for left and right turning traffic behind them. Walk quickly, do not run or play or ride bikes. The guard then sets the example by looking both ways and selecting a safe gap in traffic in which to cross the children. He has the children wait until he is in the center of the street and it is safe for the children to cross. Notice that he raises his stop paddle high as he enters the street. When the children cross, he remains alert while instructing them to watch traffic as they cross. When the children are safely across, he lowers his stop paddle and returns to the side of the street. Since he has no authority to control or direct traffic, he does not attempt to motion the vehicles to start. The drivers move on their own. If a suitable gap in traffic does not occur within about 2 minutes, the guard may have to enter the crosswalk and stop traffic. He does this by raising his stop paddle and slowly entering the crosswalk while making sure traffic is stopped before he enters a traffic lane. He continues to the center of the street and makes sure all traffic has stopped in both directions before signaling the children to cross. Remember that signs, cones, and stop paddles do not automatically protect you or the children from collision. Stay alert, keep an eye on traffic at all times, and wear your safety vest whenever you are in the street. You may be assigned to a school crossing where there are no flashing school speed limit signs. The procedures for crossing the children and the instructions given to the children are exactly the same as for a reduced speed school zone. Another type of crosswalk you may be assigned to is one at a traffic signal. In this instance, the guard is the only one to operate the walk, don't walk push button, if there is one. He instructs the children in safe crossing techniques and also explains the meaning of the walk, don't walk symbol or message. Pedestrians may start crossing if the white symbol or walk message is displayed. If the red symbol or don't walk message is displayed, the pedestrian may continue walking if already in the intersection, but may not start to cross if he is not already in the intersection. There may or may not be flashing school speed limit signs to turn on and off. Never try to cross the children against the signal or try to extend the crossing time with the stop paddle against the don't walk signal. It is not necessary to push the button more than once, since the button only notifies the signal to extend the green time for pedestrians during the next green phase. It does not make the next green phase come any quicker. Stay in the center of the crosswalk until all the children have reached the other side safely. Then return to your original position. Again, we remind you that you are not a police officer and you do not signal the traffic to proceed. Motorists will automatically continue their journey once you have reached the sidewalk and lowered your stop paddle, and the signal turns green. Now, let's review some of the most important points of this training program. You should have a list of contacts and know where the nearest phone is. You should arrive at your crosswalk about 60 minutes before school starts to inspect the signs, crosswalks, and crossing guard equipment. Always wear your vest when in the street. If you are working at a 20-mile-per-hour reduced school speed zone, you must turn on the signs and place the cones in the proper sequence no earlier than 45 minutes prior to the start of school. The flashing school speed limit signs should be turned on first. Next, the cones are placed on the center line at the crosswalk. Group the children away from the curb or roadway and wait for a suitable gap in the traffic before stepping out into the crosswalk. Keep in mind that not all motorists will stop for you, no matter who you are or what you are doing. This is your opportunity to teach children to cross safely. Instruct by example so they will stop before entering the street, look left, right, then left again, wait for a safe gap in traffic. When safe to do so, walk quickly straight across the street while looking for approaching vehicles at all times. Do not run or play or ride bicycles in the street. Remember, you are not only a crossing guard, but also an instructor on how to share the road safely with automobiles. If you do experience difficulties, bring them to your school principal or school district traffic safety committee. Problems such as motorists speeding in the school zone should be reported to the local police agency. Other traffic concerns should be reported to the school district traffic safety committee. Be courteous to both pedestrians and motorists, and they will get into the habit of watching out for you and respect your actions. With this attitude, you will receive the recognition of a respected school crossing guard, a job that is essential to the safety of our school children. You, as school crossing guards, are the most important part of the school crossing system. The signs and other traffic control devices are and will remain passive. They cannot take an active role in protecting children on their way to school as you can, nor can they instruct children in safe crossing techniques that can help them at other crossings. Only you can provide the assistance children need to make it safely to school and back home again. In closing, we wish to thank you for being a school crossing guard. Your job is a key element in traffic safety. Human beings are the major component in any transportation system. When they are presented with situations they are familiar with, their performance tends to be error-free. On the other hand, if they are presented with situations they are not familiar with, their reaction time increases and they tend to make mistakes. This is the main reason for standardizing the signs, pavement markings, and other traffic control devices for school crossings. When drivers see the same traffic control devices each time they enter a school crossing or a reduced speed school zone, they know what is expected of them and they tend to take the correct actions. Human behavior is also the reason that the maximum length of reduced speed school zones has been set at 300 feet. Drivers tend to obey a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit if they can see a reason for it, and the distance they must travel at that speed is not too great. The short zone results in voluntary reduction in speed by the driver and greater safety at the crossing. There are in the Utah Supplement to Part 7 of the MUTCD 3 typical applications for signing and marking school crossings and 3 typical applications for signing and marking reduced speed school zones. The difference between school crossings and reduced speed school zones is that signing for school crossings does not include the flashing school speed limit signs or cones. There are 3 typical applications for signing and marking a school crossing: the intersection school crossing, the mid-block crossing, and the crossing which abuts the school grounds. Since all 3 are similar, we will only discuss one, bearing in mind that what we say will apply to all 3. You will notice that passing is discouraged by the use of solid white lane lines if the road is multi-lane and a double yellow center line. The purpose of the crossing is emphasized by painting the word school across all the approaching lanes next to the S1-1 school advance sign. The school advance sign is installed in advance of the school crossing, a distance which depends on the speed limit of the road. The S2-1 school crossing sign is placed as close to the crossing as possible. No parking signs may be placed in advance of the school advance and the school crossing signs to ensure visibility to drivers. The crossing itself is a ladder type for high emphasis. There are 3 typical applications for signing and marking a reduced speed school zone. Please remember that what we say will also apply to isolated intersections and mid-block locations where a reduced speed school zone is used. Passing is discouraged here also by a use of solid white lane lines if the road is multi-lane and by a double yellow center line. The purpose of the crossing is emphasized by the word school painted across all approach lanes adjacent to the S1-1 school advance sign. The school advance sign is placed in advance of the S5-1 flashing school speed limit sign, a distance depending on the speed limit of the road. The flashing school speed limit sign is installed in advance of the crossing, a distance also depending on the speed limit of the road. The S2-1 school crossing sign is placed as close as possible to the crosswalk, and the S5-2 end school zone sign as close as possible to 50 feet past the crosswalk. No parking signs may be installed in advance of all signs to increase visibility for drivers. The crosswalk is a ladder type. Cones are placed on the yellow center line on each side of the crosswalk only while the flashing signs are in operation. They should be placed so that they do not interfere with left-turning traffic. Remember to place all signs, pavement markings, and other traffic control devices for school crossings and for reduced speed school zones as closely as possible to standards contained in the Utah Supplement to Part 7 of the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Do not try to use unusual devices to gain attention or to use standard devices in unusual places, since this will usually result in increased driver reaction time and possibly a tragedy. This program has been produced by the Utah Department of Transportation and the Utah Technology Transfer Center at Utah State University as a community service in the interest of traffic safety. Special thanks to the City of Phoenix for help with this script.